What if the thing that made your life cheaper is the same thing that quietly destroyed your future? For decades, we were told a simple story. Cheap goods are good. Lower prices mean higher living standards. Global trade makes everyone richer. But here's the mystery no one wants to confront. Why did entire industries vanish in country after prices got cheaper? Why did wages stagnate, factories close, and skills disappear, even as store shelves filled with affordable products? And why does every nation that tries to compete the same way end up trapped tonight? We're uncovering the China trap, a system built on low prices that looks like success, until it starts killing the very industries that depend on it. This is not a story about villains or propaganda. It's a story about incentives, economics, and a pattern repeating across history. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. To understand the China trap, we need to rewind not to China's rise, but to a moment when the world made a quiet decision. After World War II, global trade was rebuilt on a powerful belief: comparative advantage. Each country would specialize, trade freely, buy from whoever could produce the cheapest. In theory, everyone wins. By the late 20th century, this idea fused with a new reality: China, a nation of hundreds of millions of workers, low wages, centralized planning, and a government willing to subsidize production at a scale never seen before. To Western consumers and corporations, China looked like a miracle. Costs dropped, margins rose, inflation stayed low. But beneath the surface, something strange was happening. Factories in the US, Europe, Latin America, and parts of Asia weren't just losing market share, they were disappearing entirely, not shrinking, not adapting, vanishing. And the deeper the world leaned into cheap Chinese production, the harder it became to turn back. This is where the trap begins. China's manufacturing model didn't emerge naturally. It was engineered. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, China began opening its economy, but on its own terms. The goal wasn't just growth, it was industrial dominance. Here's how the system was designed: artificially low labor costs, state-owned banks providing near-free credit, subsidized energy, land, and logistics, currency controls keeping exports cheap, export targets prioritized over profitability. This meant something crucial: Chinese firms could survive selling at prices that would bankrupt competitors elsewhere. In normal markets, companies that sell below cost die. In China's system, they were supported. Losses weren't failures. They were strategic investments. This wasn't about short-term profit. It was about scale, learning, and dependency. As factories multiplied, costs fell further. As costs fell, global competitors collapsed. And once they collapsed, there was no one left to compete. By the 1990s and early 2000s, the effect was unstoppable. Western corporations faced a brutal choice: manufacture domestically and lose to cheaper imports, or outsource production and survive. Most chose survival. Factories moved. Supply chains stretched across oceans. Skills hollowed out at home. Consumers loved it. TVs became cheaper. Clothes cost less. Electronics flooded the market. Politicians called it progress. Economists called it efficiency. But quietly, something irreversible was happening. Entire ecosystems were dying. Toolmakers, component suppliers, machine maintenance firms, training programs, apprenticeships. When the factory goes, the ecosystem goes with it. And rebuilding an ecosystem is far harder than destroying one. Here's the core mechanism of the China trap. 1. China floods the market with ultra-cheap goods. 2. Local producers cannot compete on price. 3. Factories shut down. 4. Skills and capital disappear. 5. The country becomes dependent on imports. 6. Prices eventually rise, or supply becomes weaponized. Low prices don't just beat competitors, they erase the possibility of competition. Once industries are gone, the market isn't free anymore, it's captive. This is not theoretical. Steel, solar panels, textiles, electronics, shipbuilding. The pattern repeats everywhere. Countries try to compete by cutting wages, reducing standards, subsidizing exports. But they can't out-subsidize a state with deep reserves and strategic patience. they fall into the same trap. The breaking point always comes later when dependency is complete. Suddenly, cheap goods aren't just cheap goods, they're leverage. Supply disruptions reveal how fragile everything has become. Geopolitical tensions turn trade into a weapon. Prices spike not because of markets, but because of power. During global shocks, countries realize they can't produce basic goods anymore, not because they forgot how, but because there's no industry left to do it. This is when the cost of cheapness becomes visible. The real victims of the China trap aren't consumers, they are industrial workers, skilled trades, small manufacturers. Entire regions, hollowed out jobs don't just disappear, they are replaced with lower paying service work. Wages stagnate, inequality rises, communities collapse. And here's the cruel irony: consumers save money at the checkout, but lose income on the paycheck. The savings are visible, the losses are invisible. Governments eventually react: tariffs, industrial policy, reshoring initiatives. But by then, the damage is done. Factories can't reopen overnight. Skilled workers are gone. Supply chains are entrenched. And even when production returns, costs are higher. Consumers complain. Politicians retreat. Corporations resist. The system snaps back to cheap imports. The trap resets. We see this today in electric vehicles, batteries, solar panels, advanced manufacturing. Once again, ultra-low prices dominate. Once again, competitors struggle. Once again, dependency grows. Different decades, same structure. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes perfectly. 3 clear takeaways. Takeaway number 1. Low prices are not neutral, they reshape power. Takeaway number 2. Once an industry dies, it rarely comes back. Takeaway number 3. Dependency always reveals its cost eventually. The China trap isn't about China. It's about a global system that rewards cheapness today and ignores consequences tomorrow. The real question isn't whether cheap goods are good or bad. It's this: what happens when everything is too cheap to survive? If this changed how you see global trade and low prices, share it with someone who still believes cheaper is always better. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into hidden economic systems shaping our world. And leave a comment below. Is the China trap already irreversible, or is there still a way out? Because the next chapter of this story is being written right now.